Hi everyone, I'm Maria McLachlan, and regular viewers will note I'm sitting in a different place, as far away from the hot side of the room as possible. I can't have the windows open because I've got two pesky little foster kittens running around and they are semi-feral. I don't want them escaping out the window. A few days ago, I posted a video celebrating International Non-Binary Day, and I was really surprised at how popular it proved to be. It was intended to be just a bit of fun and mocking a phenomenon that I find it impossible to take too seriously. So thanks for all the lovely comments. As you can see, I washed the non-binariness out of my hair, but I got so many appreciative comments of the bilious green colour, and I'm especially looking at you, Crumbly Duckling. Do I detect a note of sarcasm in your comment? Anyway, I thought you might like to see some of my other incarnations over the years before all the wokesters started copying me. That one is my favourite one, taken on my 60th birthday, which I celebrated in wonderful New Orleans. Okay, because I'm not in a fit state to do anything else, especially anything that involves too much brain power, I'm making an easy video in response to one of the commenters below that non-binary video. As I've said before, even though I might find a comment interesting, I can't always be asked to respond in full, given that my response might only be read by one or two people, when I can do a video that will be seen by a few more. Here is the comment she posted, the first one. I'm going to call her K2 because I don't know how to pronounce the rest of her username. This video is fascinating. I commend you on your logical approach, even though I do not agree with you on some points. The paper you spent much of your time going over, by Julia, was obviously written by someone at one extreme for people also at that extreme, disguised as an argument against transphobes. Yeah, I agree with that. Your video is at the other extreme for people also at this extreme. Yeah, I agree with that too. Although you may be hoping that some pro-trans people see this video and convert to your side. Oh, good heavens, no. Especially not that video. If I had any expectations at all of that video as far as the genderists were concerned, it was that it would attract the usual snark, petulance and gratuitous abuse. In fact, I can say, hand on heart, that I don't expect to convert anyone who is in thrall to gender ideology with any of my videos. I call them a cult because they are immune to reason. If I hope to persuade anyone with my videos, it's people who consider themselves neutral or don't know much about the topic, but my target audience are those who are already concerned and want to know more and want to know how to deal with the rubbish the gender nutters say. And also for those people who need to feel less alone in their views. I do get quite a few people saying that, to give them the confidence perhaps to be able to speak out. Okay, next. It is fascinating that both of you think you are presenting logical arguments and destroying the other side with facts while only preaching to your own group. I see others in the comments praising you for your solid arguments, but I have to say your argument is just as solid as Julia's. Really? One could poke holes in it just the same fashion you poked holes in hers, because both of your arguments are based on opinions. Just goes to show that society will never all be on the same page when it comes to issues like this. Okay, obviously I have a few problems with this paragraph. First, let's revisit what an argument is, because I have talked about this before. An argument is a claim plus reasoning, and the reasoning may be sound or not. The implication here is that both Julia and I offered arguments, but that in both cases our reasoning wasn't sound or not completely so. I had to wonder what arguments I'd actually made in that video, because I hadn't really set out to make any. I'd set out to take the piss, basically. So I looked back, and apart from taking issue with Julia's definition of biological essentialism and her phrase, becoming who you are, I'm not sure that I said anything that could reasonably be called an argument. I did, as K2 said, poke holes in what Julia said. I made assertions like this, because they think everything is about who one is. They are obsessed with identity. But I didn't offer any reasoning for them. I also expressed opinions like this, because that, in my opinion, is at the heart of what it means to be non-binary. You don't feel you fit all the cultural expressions of what it means to be a man or a woman, and you still want a label that makes you feel special. Am I right? But I didn't offer any reasoning for that either. So to return to that paragraph, I don't know what Julia thought she was doing, but I know when I am presenting a rational argument based on facts, and I know when I am merely expressing an opinion based on impressions and possibly experience, which may well be limited. And in that video, I was mostly doing the latter. I can also say that although there were many wonderful and complimentary comments, I did not see a single one praising my solid arguments. K2 seems to have read that into comments like these when it isn't necessarily there. So that first comment from K2 led to an exchange with a few other people, from which I'll just highlight a few things that K2 said. Her next comment was in response to someone stating that there are just two sexes, male and female. She says, both sides agree with this statement. That's not quite true. I think it's true of most people on the other side of this debate, but there are some who have some quite crazy ideas, including, according to headlines last week, the World Health Organization, which is reportedly about to issue new guidance stating that sex is not limited to male and female. Obviously, it's been condemned by scientists who are uncaptured by the new wokeness. Then there are those who claim that there is no such thing as biological sex at all, including Action Aid UK, and there are plenty more where those came from. I've shown others of them in previous videos. K2 says, the argument is not about sex, it is about gender. The opinions are sex and gender are different, gender includes non-binary people, versus sex and gender are the same, and therefore non-binary people don't exist. No, that isn't the argument. It's certainly not an argument I have ever made. I have talked about gender being a social construct in several of my videos, and I think it was earlier this year that I made an entire video responding to those who say learn the difference between sex and gender. I agree with the old school feminist view of gender as a patriarchal system that keeps people in their place. The point isn't about whether people exist or not. The point is that what people call their gender identity is subjective. It is not measurable. This is as true for those who call themselves trans women or trans men as it is for those who call themselves non-binary or gender fluid or any other one of the myriad so-called identities. And K2's next sentence is, there have been scientific studies proving that transgender people's brains match their identified gender rather than their sex. Again, this is a claim to which I have devoted an entire video looking at the studies in question and showing that this claim is flawed. The studies do not show what they are widely reported as showing, so I won't repeat the arguments here. Go check it out. Next. But there have not been anything that conclusively proves or disproves the existence of non-binary people. Any stance you take on this is an opinion. There has been nothing to conclusively prove that people are non-binary or transgender in the sense of there being any different from anyone else. As I said in another video recently, can't remember which one, I do believe there is a tiny number of people who are genuinely deeply distressed with their sex and believe they would have been happier had they been born the other one. And they may be helped mentally by changing their bodies physically and presenting as the other sex, or just claiming to be neither. But that doesn't make them anything. It doesn't make them what they are not. Calling it a gender makes no difference if you're going to use that term to justify accessing the rights and privileges and protections of the other sex. In another comment, K2 says, I know that you reading this will see Maria's side as fact and the other as people being ridiculous, not understanding biology, etc. But the fact is that science does not support either side at this point, therefore both are opinions. The phrase science supports is overused and problematic because what's it supposed to mean? As I stated in the last video, biology is the study of living organisms, and those who do biology for a living perceive just two sexes defined by their role in reproduction. It has nothing to say about gender because that is the domain of sociologists, philosophers maybe, but not the hard sciences. In fairness to Julia, I think we should look at what she said that I highlighted in my video. Firstly, as I said, she gave a misleading definition of the term biological essentialism. I'm not sure that there is anything to argue with here, because if you look at independent sources, they agree with my definition, which I supported with examples from the anti-women's suffragists. That was an argument based on fact, not opinion. She also said, how we do science has been plagued by biological essentialism and reductionism, and I pointed out that she hadn't substantiated this claim. Believe me, I have no problem with it in principle. It's just that claims like it should be supported with reasoning and examples maybe, and it wasn't. Then she mentioned a narrow definition of biology without any explanation of what she meant by that. Then there was a load of guff about her identity, which I suggested revealed a lack of objectivity on her part. My main objection was what she said when she was characterizing opposition to gender ideology as hate, which is ridiculous. None of these follow my definition of what constitutes an argument as a claim plus reasoning. All of it is very easy to poke holes into in a video which was intended to be light-hearted. By the way, if anyone wants to challenge my definition of an argument, I'm all ears. Finally, here is an example of where Maria states something just plain wrong, though. She says, these are the people who say, when you say woman is an adult human female, they'll go, well, obviously you've done no biology since kindergarten. This is a strange statement, and I think what Maria meant to say is that if you say a woman has female reproductive organs, these people will get mad. And that would be correct, but that's not what she said. No, indeed, that is not what I said, and if that is what I had meant, that is what I would have said. What I did say was not strange to anyone who has been arguing with gender nutters as long as I have. It was a bit hyperbolic because I used the word kindergarten when those people who use that particular very tired trope tend to talk about high school or grade school or even elementary school. Here are but a few of hundreds of examples that appeared on Twitter, so I am mystified, K2, as to why you would say so strongly that it was just plain wrong, just because you haven't come across it yourself. I detect a little bit of overconfidence in your opinions here. Perhaps what Maria is saying here is that female relates to the sex organs, not one's gender, but this is an opinion. Transgender women call themselves female, and in your opinion that is wrong, but in many people's opinions that is not wrong. The issue with debating Maria is that her arguments are based on opinion, and the rebuttal will also be based on opinion. Therefore, nobody is wrong, and nobody's minds will get changed. The problem here, K2, is that the word opinion has several shades of meaning, and you are conflating them all and using the word as if all opinions are of equal value and none of them are based on facts. Sometimes opinions are based on facts, sometimes they aren't. I mean, sometimes they're just a preference, expressing a preference or an appraisal, like cats are better than dogs, in my opinion, but dogs are better than hamsters. But sometimes it's an expression of a professional judgment that depends on knowledge as well as experience, like a legal opinion or a medical opinion. When I use the words female and male, I use them with their biological meaning, which depends on gametes. That's not an opinion. That is how biologists use the word. There are no other words in the study of living things to refer to those who follow one or other developmental pathway towards the production of either large or small gametes. That some trans-identifying men call themselves female, and I believe, though I don't actually know, that only a minority do, but that doesn't mean their opinion is equally valid to those of professional, objective biologists. It's like saying that my opinion that Liverpool is the capital of England is just as valid as saying London is the capital. No, it's bullshit. They are misusing the word, redefining it to suit their own purpose, and they are wrong. It's the same with the words women and men. They claim these words are genders, but not sexes. Why? On what authority? These words have been used since forever and the world over to mean adult human females and males. If you redefine them so that they can include people of the opposite sex, then you leave us without words that specifically mean adult human females and males. Now, the real point of contention is, does it matter? Does it matter whether male people claim to be female, claim to be women? Can't we just expand these categories, female and women, and male and men, and girls and boys, obviously, to accommodate anyone who wants to be accepted as if they were indeed the opposite sex? And as I have argued repeatedly in many of my videos, it absolutely does, and I have offered my reasoning, and my reasoning is always based on evidence. So my advice to you, K2, is to bear in mind that not every assertion or opinion expressed is necessarily an argument. Again, an argument is a claim plus reasoning, and you need to examine any reasoning offered before just dismissing it as based on opinion. I note that in one of your comments, by the way, you describe yourself as non-binary, and I'd be interested in your reasoning for that if you have a mind to sharing it. But thanks anyway for your thought-provoking comments. That's all for now. Bye.